Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Marvel Movie Talk. We are so excited to be back literally one day after our previous episode. If you missed our emergency episode where we talked about all of the announcements from the Marvel panel and Hall H at San Diego Comic-Con, please check that out. I think some of those things will kind of bleed over into this conversation. But for our visual audience, you can see we're having Deadpool talk with all the spoilers. I'm going to leave that up there as much as I can. We are talking Deadpool. We are going to talk about every single goddamn spoiler in the movie. So be ready, unless you're ready for it to be spoiled. Our returning champion after so many shows is, of course, our friend Katie Hampton. Thank you for being back.
Thanks
And
for having me.
for the second day in a row, Mr. David Brody, thank you for being here today. And it's been a moment since we've caught up with our friend Nate Miller. But Nate, thank you for not only seeing Deadpool and Wolverine, but for wanting to talk to all of us about it. So I want to start with just sort of overall feeling, overall thoughts, where this was in relation to the expectations for the movie. And I'm going to start with you, Katie, because yesterday was your birthday, and happy birthday to you from Wade Wilson and Logan for seeing Deadpool and Wolverine on your birthday. Your thoughts about spending the big night with those two gents?
I freaking loved it, man. It was perfect. It was the best birthday movie I could have asked for. It was exciting. I loved the cameos. I loved everything in it. I thought it helped kind of ease some tensions that a lot of us have been having with Marvel lately, and said the exact jokes that we've all been needing to hear. So I'm a freaking big fan of this one.
Yeah, can't wait to talk more about it. And lest David Brody think that he's going to go next, it's time to introduce our guest. Thank you to Erik Nagel for being here. We appreciate you. Welcome to Marvel Movie Talk here on the Geekscape Network. Erik, it's been a while since you and I have done a show.
Apologize, it took a moment. We had no turnover time between the last show to this show, and a bathroom visit had to have been made. So,
well, that'll tell you what the previous show was full of. Who are these broadcasters on the Who Are These Podcasts YouTube channel, celebrating 1 year over there. We had a lot of fun. And thank you, Erik, for not only double dipping, you've now done a full hat trick in the past week because you were also on our Star Wars Acolyte episode.
Correct.
So
I also did a costume change. So
I did not. I'm gonna see. We're doing a lot of Deadpool and Wolverine episodes here at Marvel Movie Talk. I'm gonna wear this shirt for all of them, and I'll let you know. I'm not washing it in between. So I'll when people start walking out of the room, that's when I'll realize it's time to stop doing Deadpool and Wolverine shows. But this is our first. So, Erik, your thoughts going into it, and do you feel like it delivered on what your expectations were, if maybe not the hype, because the hype would possibly have been impossible to live up to?
Yeah, I think it definitely delivered. I know a lot of people said, and we'll probably get into this, about the story not being as in-depth or not making much sense in certain cases. This was one of those movies where I didn't really care that the story wasn't very complex and layered and intricate. I enjoyed it for what it was. It became a great buddy cop movie, and then it's the only movie that I knew of, at least in the Marvel world, where some of the big reveals were not spoiled. Like, some of these things nobody knew, and I'm amazed that even happened. So that it has that going for me too, that this movie pulled off all kinds of things that a lot of other movies couldn't.
Yeah. Now, Katie, you spent the weekend in San Diego Comic-Con as I did. I was able to see this Friday morning, seeing it like a civilized person at 9:30 in the morning as soon as I dropped the kids off. But how were you able to spend time at San Diego Comic-Con without being bombarded by spoilers? Or was it that nobody else had time to see it either?
I truly don't know how it was. I know Mark had a lot of things spoiled for him, which kind of
was he going on Twitter like an idiot? Yeah, I know your husband.
Probably,
yeah.
probably. You know, like, and there's so many conversations going on. I think it was literally because we had packed our schedule so much with interviews and events and activations that I literally didn't have time to think about Deadpool Wolverine. So I truly don't know how I skipped the spoilers. Maybe I just didn't look at things or didn't look at Twitter or whatever. But yeah, I made it through unscathed, and nothing was spoiled for me, and everything was a great joy to see.
Well, good. And David Brody, you saw it, I believe, on Thursday. And
Yes.
were you able to avoid spoilers? There were some set leaks, like over the past year, some images, some reports of people on set. We'll get into some of that stuff. But did you feel like you were able to avoid spoilers in the release window, as they say?
I did find out that Wolverine was in the movie before I saw it, so that was a bit of a spoiler.
Sure.
Other than that, no. I was, like you said, the set shots of some of the evil mutants were leaked, but I had no. I imagined Human Torch would be in the movie. I figured it couldn't be made without him, so I was happy to see that he was there. But I had no clue about Blade. No. I mean, Jennifer Garner was like rumored. Blade was not. Was never even a rumor. So I was amazed that they kept it, as Erik said, mostly a secret. Yeah, amazed.
What about you, Nate? I couldn't remember. I messaged you over the weekend. I couldn't remember how you felt about Deadpool, but in my mind, I was like, I think he's looking forward to this. I think you enjoy the character. What did you think of this movie? And I believe you saw it yesterday. So, were you able to avoid spoilers, or was everybody talking about Wesley Snipes and Jennifer Garner and Channing Tatum, which we'll get to?
I fortunately was able to keep myself pretty busy this weekend. There was like a Magic the Gathering had a new set that had a pre-release come out, so I kind of was like tunneled into that. So I think that being in that corner of the internet sheltered me from any of the spoilers. But yeah, I was really shocked that I did not have anything spoiled. I mean, not anything. There, like, obviously there were leaks and there was like, photos from on set and stuff that had come out. But yeah, the Wesley Snipes thing for me by far was the most surprising one. I was like, there's no way. That one really, really caught me off guard. But I definitely intentionally, like, I watched the first trailer and I did not watch any other promotional material after that. I already knew I was going to watch the movie. I care about the characters. Like, I just know. I had a feeling that this was going to be the Fox No Way Home, like, kind of like tying in all these things and having surprise cameos from this other universe that's now being folded into the Marvel universe. So I figured it would be best to know as little as possible, and it definitely paid off. I enjoyed the film. I definitely have some criticisms and some, like, minor complaints here and there, but overall I think it had a really great balance of action, really cool action scenes. As a Wolverine fanboy, it is really cool to see him finally masked up on screen and like actually being able to do R-rated violence with claws and dismembering people and stuff. I didn't find this one to be as funny as I found the others, like, and not for lack of trying. But overall, like, I really want to see it again. There was so much stuff packed in there. And especially by the end, it really felt like a genuine love letter to that, Fox era of movies that kind of like pioneered this superhero movie space before it became what it is now with the MCU stuff. So I really, as someone who grew up watching those movies and being like, defending X2, even though it's not a great film, but I love it. I enjoy it.
It's my favorite of all the X-Men movies, X2. So I mean, I guess that's not saying much when you think about what some of the others are, but I agree. And yeah, I mean, it's easy to forget that, the first Sony Spider-Man, the first Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire, is after that first X-Men movie, and there's all the little building blocks of, the X-Men animated series leads to the movie, leads to Spider-Man, and before you know it, we have the MCU. And I agree. I wanted to get a couple comments in from the chat. Our friend Ivan Soto had never seen a Deadpool movie before, but he enjoyed it despite the R rating. And I do remember you were talking that you were going to see it, and I think you had never seen an R-rated movie before. It is one of the most R-rated movies that you can see. I was talking to people about it. Occasionally, people are surprised that I saw the first RoboCop in the theater, even though I was 11. That movie is incredibly violent and gory. It has nothing on the first 4 minutes of this movie. I know people who took their kids. were planning to take their kids maybe before they saw it. But I turned to my wife. I was like, yeah, I'm so glad. It came out on my son's 9th birthday. And I told him from the beginning, like, nope. And he's not really looking to see it either. So that makes it easier. I don't know. I think some of us from the older generation were probably desensitized to violence. So my parents didn't even, on-screen violence. So my parents didn't think twice for me seeing RoboCop. I'd show him RoboCop 10 times before I showed him this movie. But I thought it was very important that it start that way, though, because there's a lot of the concerns. There were definitely the possibility that, is this going to, is it going to Disney-fy Deadpool? And they wanted to make sure all the marketing materials, everything, let us know ahead of time. But in case you were still at all trepidatious, Katie, they hit you with an adamantium skull right away to make sure you got it, that this is more Deadpool than Deadpool's ever been, right?
Oh, absolutely. From the fourth wall breaking literally to so many different moments. It's funny. I think Ivan mentions this in the chat, but I was one of the people that thought that it was going to follow the Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe storyline, and instead do the Fox universe. I was actually really pleasantly surprised that they didn't do that, but they were more like a love letter to the Fox universe and to kind of rebirthing a lot of the characters that really got shafted in all of this.
Right. And Ivan Soda's comment was, it makes me wonder if the whole killing the Fox universe people thought this movie would be about was real, if it was just the fans' wishes. I thought it was a little bit of a misdirect. It was the opposite. It was the saving the Fox universe. And it was very sweet. They had that behind the scenes montage during the credits from the Fox film set Green Day's Time of Your Life. And it's nice to remember, like, oh, yeah, I didn't hate all these movies. Okay, I hated that one, but that scene's good. Oh, there's Liev Schreiber. That movie was garbage, but he was good in it. You start to remember all these things,
Well, and then it also like brings back all the things that we love about Deadpool and the comics. So like you were saying, like just starting out with such a gory opening, which was just so beautiful and so much fun. Seeing him completely desecrate that grave. And one of my favorite lines, I think, is like, they say that there's 206 bones in the body, 207 if I'm watching Gossip Girl. Such a great pull.
I mean,
nice. Yeah.
It's very meta at times. It's very self-aware. We'll talk about some of those things. I had to make sure. I'm like, let me read this guy's name before I say it out loud. No, I think Butts Unplugged, I guess, is all right. And he says, and I'm assuming I guess I shouldn't. They say, I think it's the best Deadpool movie out of all three. I don't know. I mean, that first one, I think it's sort of like it floored me because I was like, oh, wow, they really did this. And I was a little surprised. Erik, what did you think as you're watching it? Sort of we're talking about the old ultra violence in the beginning of it, the taking the adamantium bones and impaling his adversaries with it, strapping on the claws, all of that. What did you think about that sequence?
I thought it was great. It paid homage. I love how this movie was paying homage to itself, to its first two movies.
Yeah.
Because he was sitting there and he goes, wait, like he did in the car scene on the highway. And then just like he's not going to use he said, I won't use any weapons. He's using the bones, similar to, I only got 12 bullets and, I got to make them count. So he's kind of recreating the scene again, which was funny. And I love just within the first, that was what, 5 minutes of the movie?
About 5 minutes, yeah.
Sets the tone to show Marvel that, like, you can do R-rated movies and you can still do the movies where the families can come and see. It doesn't all have to be watered down so kids can come and see this. Kids can grow into other movies, as we all did. So have the R-rated adult-style stuff and then have the other stuff, and then I have theories later on about how when Deadpool comes into the family-friendly version of it, what they could do. But it just shows you, it's like, this movie is the highest-rated R-rated movie of all time for its opening weekend in the United States. It's showing you that, like, if you can get your shit together with Blade, you're going to have another billion-dollar property. And then, hey, maybe some of these other things, they want to see a Punisher collaboration movie.
Yes,
you can now do it because Deadpool paved the way for it.
Well, yeah, it is the most successful R-rated opening, somehow beating Showgirls, but somebody had to.
And they
I want
did
to.
the same dance moves, especially the pool scene.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's actually the audition video of the guy who does most of the dance moves for Bye Bye Bye, and it's incredible watching him just like scrap for that audition.
The great Hack Ride visiting us.
Hi,
Shit,
Hack
I
Ride.
think I'm in the wrong room. Is this the French movie Delicatessen? The Caro and Junet Writer's Breakdown? No, okay, I'll see myself out. No, but we appreciate Hack Ride being there. Go subscribe, Hack Ride Studios.
He's very funny.
Especially if you want to do a deep dive on the Howard Stern whackpacker, Erik the Midget. That was his on-air name. I believe he went on to being Erik the actor. As soon as I said it, I'm like, oh yeah, I could have called him Erik the actor. My mistake. But so yeah, Hack Ride has collaborated a few times on the show that we did a little while ago. Who are these broadcasters? Great to see him in here. And David Brody, the violence. Yep. The blood, the gore. I remember in 1987 when Wolverine first got his monthly book, they bragged about how it had 125 kills in it. They knew what they were doing. That was the same year I saw RoboCop. Hey, wait a second. No, we'll move on. But I was like, that kid could never have dreamed for a sequence like this. Obviously, there was no Deadpool at the time, the movie as a whole, but that's the level of violence that I think the Deadpool and Wolverine fanboy, fangirl, fan people all wanted to see. What did you think, Brody?
Well, I was glad to see that nothing changed as far as the violence and the humor and the sex jokes. I mean, there wasn't any pegging scene, but for the most part, it was the same level of Deadpool that some people were worried about. I thought the first scene was a great way to remind people, as Erik said, nope, nothing's changed. Same old Deadpool, different dance moves. But I thought it was great. I thought the blood was appropriate level of blood and nothing out of the ordinary, and certainly less than I just saw the movie Kill, which was a lot more blood. So to me, it was almost Disneyfied, like he was doing it laughing about it. So it didn't seem as horrific as a Friday the 13th kind of blood movie.
Well, you know what they say, Brody. If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I feel like Wade Wilson has never worked a day in his life. So.
And
correct.
Brody's right about how the violence was kind of Disneyfied. There's one scene in that opening sequence that is so horrific yet so hilarious at the same time. When the one guy was talking about, not even being like the biggest name in Canada or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And it just cuts to a wide scene of Deadpool annoyed, and then he just did a bounce shot with his katana blade, and it goes right into the guy. Quick, violent, horrific, yet hilarious at the same time.
Yeah, I think that the on-screen Deadpool has always managed to be a balance of all those things, and this did not let us down. Ivan Soto wants to know: has the blood stuff in the other Deadpool movies always been real blood, or was it CG? I'm just gonna let you know a little secret, Ivan. They never use real blood in movies, but I know what you mean. You mean practical. You mean practical effects blood. I know. You mean the squibs and all that. I don't know. I mean, I think that it's hard to tell these days, and Nate, I've never considered that, but I feel like CG blood, fake blood. I think it all kind of looks the same, whether you're watching this or possibly the director's cut of RoboCop. What did you think getting Deadpool on the screen the way that the way Rob Liefeld would tell you he envisioned the character?
With the intro, I thought it was good. It definitely continues the same vein, like Erik said, of the intros that we had before with the action sequences and the music. I did not particularly enjoy the dancing bit too much. I did not, part of one of my complaints with Deadpool 2 is I think that there's like a really fine balance for me in my enjoyment with the Deadpool character between the slapstick silliness, like covering up, the suffering and real emotional stuff that's like kind of below. And I feel like the second movie kind of leaned more in the slapstick direction. And so for me, starting this movie off really full tilt in the slapstick stuff kind of took me out of it a little bit. I definitely had a moment where I reminded myself, like, this is a comedy movie, turn your brain off, because the first thing I thought of when he pulled up the skeleton was like, yeah, he's got adamantium bones, but all his joints and ligaments should not be intact. Those should be gone.
Yes,
so when he's
you're
like
right.
swinging the knee around, my brain, I'm like, no, it's okay. It looks cool. It looks cool. Thematically, it's appropriate. They're dragging up his dead corpse to bring it around for one more go to make some money again. So
Wow.
I was glad that happened early on, so that later on in the movie, I had stopped like trying to think about like, okay, well, how would that work? And I just was like, fun action movie comedy, just enjoy it, the ride.
I think that you needed to do exactly what you're describing, because I'm sitting there and I'm like, you can't snap an adamantium bone in half because it's adamantium and it doesn't break. And then I was like, oh, stop being that guy. All right. So the Deepening Podcast is here in the chat. And I think he's going to probably keep asking the same question unless I answer it. Do Dennis Miller and Howard Stern have adamantium hair plugs? Dennis Miller, who most people know I worked for a very long time, was very upfront about the hair plugs he got. He said it was money that was very well spent, extended his career. Howard will tell you that he has no artificial hair, but I think that they're not adamantium, but he could afford it. And this one is basically for you, Erik. The Deepening Podcast wants to know, was there a Scott Shannon cameo in DP3?
Yes, he was one of the many masked Deadpool people towards the end there that we're just still today finding out more and more people were under those masks that even Ryan Reynolds didn't know, apparently. Like Tom Holland's brother.
Yeah,
was one of them, and he found out after the movie was done. He's like, "That's how we find out."
I would have only been interested if there was a Mr. Leonard cameo, but that's a bit of a niche conversation.
Could have. The voice would have worked. That's all you needed.
Was there a Pinto, a green Pinto?
The lime green Pinto. Yeah. All right. Well, let us know if people want more Mr. Leonard talk. We'll get there. So I want to kind of go through some of the different aspects of the movie, and we'll kind of go reverse order now. So, Nate, in terms of the overall initial concept as it's presented to us, the TVA wants Deadpool basically to help them, or specifically the one character, go ahead and basically kill the Fox universe. That's what's presented to us, and then he has a better thought about it. How do we feel about that? Bringing the TVA in here. I do like when Deadpool, has the comment like, "Hey, it's from Loki episode 5 and season 1,
episode 5."
Yeah, right. I love stuff like that. But what did you think about? Does the TVA work in this context for you, Nate?
I loved Loki, so it was initially I was definitely excited to see the TVA's involvement. It does feel, in terms of like importance to the story, it does feel like they didn't do. It feels like they could be replaced with any other type of like multiversal police organization. It didn't feel like it was kind of tied into any of the TVA stuff we saw with Loki at all. But I did love what's his name from Succession. His performance as Paradox was awesome. I think having the kind of balance of him being, one of the bad guys to Deadpool was interesting. I don't know. Like I feel like they set up a cool premise, and then the plot of this film for me feels kind of like nebulous at times, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So I think I kind of like was like into the intro, and then like hyping him up to be like, okay, you're gonna do this thing, and then immediately on its head he flipped it, and then they had their conflict. So I don't know. I do think they nailed the visual style. I think it definitely looked like a different department of the TVA, but still had the TVA aesthetic from like the building and the clothes and stuff like that. I don't know. It was an interesting setup, I guess. I did like the starting off with the action scene and then going back and giving us the little bit of like, okay, here's what happened since the last movie, and then bringing in the TVA in that element.
But
I like the hallway.
He does that in every movie, though.
That was really good.
Yeah, but they could have easily forgotten about his entire supporting cast the way that they forgot about TJ Miller. I mean, they could have certainly done that, but I was glad to see everybody, and I did appreciate the running joke throughout that Feige says the one thing we can't do is talk about cocaine, and then the amount of time they spent talking about cocaine. Brody, what did you think? By the way, Ivan Soto, Paradox wasn't that funny, honestly. He was a douche more than anything else. Well, yeah, he had his own agenda, and that actor's name is Peter Serafinowicz. He also is, I think he's in the first Guardians, maybe even a subsequent Guardians, but so he's double dipping in the.
There's also the Tick.
Oh, he was the Tick in the Amazon Tick. That's right. Yeah, a lot of us think of the Patrick Warburton Tick. I forgot about that. What do you think, Brody, about the concept of it? The TVA rogue agent, and then Deadpool out-roguing the rogue agent.
I didn't focus on the plot holes until after I saw the movie.
Sure.
And then I got on the phone with Erik and we talked for like 2 hours. A lot of which Erik's responses were, stop reading so much into it. But then we analyzed and broke down everything. Here's what I'll say. The TVA was a device that they needed to make the plot happen. But it wasn't really an integral part other than it was there to make the plot happen. It was like a MacGuffin.
It was a people mover. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a people mover. So things didn't make sense to me. Like, he's like, oh, there's Captain America, there's Thor. How does he, I mean, again, Erik and I talked about the Fox universe had the Avengers, but we never saw them because the Fox universe didn't have the rights to show them. So he knew what Captain America looked like, I guess, from his own universe, right? But why is he the only person that can come out of his universe? And why did he go to 616 to be an Avenger? He would have left his entire family behind, which he didn't want to do. Like, there was a lot of, and what I didn't understand about the TVA was the universe is going to die in 2,000 years. But he's going to get promoted faster if he kills the universe right away. But they're mad at him for doing that, so he wasn't going to get promoted. No. So I wasn't sure why he wanted to kill the universe early.
He just wanted to use the Time Ripper, right?
Well, one, but two, he was alluding to another person in that organization or somebody who's funding that organization as being his boss. Because we know the boss that took over after Loki was done, and we saw her. I'm forgetting her character name. Yeah, so we saw her later. So we know she's running the outfit. But he went rogue doing Black Ops. His boss is not her. There's somebody else he's reporting to. Whether that means there's still a Kang involved, whether that means it's some other entity that's pulling some strings, you don't know. I don't think another Kang is involved, but after Comic-Con, the way Disney's like, yep, done, moving on to something better. But that alludes to something else, that there was somebody else involved, and they're not getting into that now. It might be revealed somewhere down the line in other movies.
My other problem is that the TVA, real quick, the TVA time is in a circle, it's in a loop, it's not a straight line, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Logan in 2024 hadn't died for 5 more years, even though the TVA knew they were going to die.
Yeah, I would say when it comes to the timeline stuff and like matching this up, it doesn't make sense.
No, because Logan's set in like 2032 or something, but
Logan's in 2029. Okay. This takes place in 2024, which means Logan wasn't dead yet. So why did he get to get another? And then when he brought Logan into his universe,
had to go forward.
Yeah, but then when he brought Logan back into his own timeline, were there 2 Logans for 5 years?
I mean, there's multiple Logans. Go ahead. Wait, go ahead, Nate.
But in that same universe, there were 2 Logans.
In my mind, my way of justifying this after I had like turned the logic volume down is that this is it's not really about timelines and multiversal stuff, right? It's about a reference to the Fox universe being folded into the MCU and all of the Fox properties and their lineage and like the streaming rights and all that stuff being like slowly dying away, and this idea that like, oh, instead actually we're just going to cut it up now and just get rid of it so that we can pick it apart for parts, kind of like what they're actually doing in the real life. So I was trying to focus on like, okay, this is a meta commentary narrative on, you know, the dissolution of Fox's of 20th Century Fox and all of their Marvel properties that they had as it's being folded into this other universe. So I think I like to think that's the direction that they were kind of going in, and just went with that kind of metaphor and didn't really think about the time stuff that much, because especially when you invoke the name of the TVA, one of the really cool things about Loki is that they are very consistent and very thorough in how they present all of this multiple timeline things that are happening. So to like say like to be like, oh, TVA, be like, oh, cool, TVA, but also don't pay attention to all the details, I think is what kind of like had some of the jarring reaction where like when you sit down and you think about it, like it doesn't quite totally make sense.
I mean,
Eric
Deadpool even had a line in the very end where he was talking about like the whole multiverse thing. Like, it doesn't work. Like, let's stop trying so hard to make it work, you know? And then Nice Pool in the background just thumbsing it down. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing is that with the timeline stuff, when we get into the nitty gritty of this and the actuality of like whether there is a Wolverine in like two locations from the same universe, I don't think it matters. It's 100% a meta commentary. It's a whole Deadpool style movie where instead of having him in the comic breaking the fourth wall, you're having him in the movies and talking about, I mean, he's literally saying lines like, you don't have any more lines to the guy that he said in like the very first movie, you know.
Well, when it comes to any kind of fiction, you know, nerdy or otherwise, I always have to borrow a line from the theme song to Mystery Science Theater 3000. If you're wondering how he eats and breathes or other science facts, repeat to yourself, it's just a show. I should really just relax.
Well, Eric just
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No,
I was
go
going
ahead.
to say, Eric explained it perfectly to me. I think better than any of us when I asked that question, and his response was, "Shut up, Brody. You're overthinking it." And I think,
But
let me just say, I've had this question up here for a while, and it ties into what Brody was saying. Ivan Soto was Deadpool basically going to commute between his universe and the Avengers universe when he wanted to be Avenger all along. Honestly, he was going to leave everything behind if he got to be an Avenger. I mean, I think he'd want Vanessa still, but I think that's what it came.
I think what they're
Eric.
doing, I didn't think about it till just now, but we were talking about the TVA. At the end, spoiler, he saves his universe, and they said the timeline is growing back, it's staying, it's positioned like Deadpool's the new anchor or the new Wolverine's the new anchor, whatever it is, it's existing. So they could be saying, even though the multiverse stuff isn't working, Deadpool, X-Men, these other things. We saw the X-Men at when at the end of the Marvels when I can never remember what her character's name is.
Beast.
Photon?
Oh, binary.
That goes
Monica Rambeau. It's confusing.
Monica Rambeau, yeah.
She doesn't want to have a code.
the other one.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, no,
so
she became binary in that
We
universe.
see Maria Rambeau, and she's
Yeah.
binary.
So
yeah.
you see, she goes over there. She's now in the X-Men universe, which we assume is the same with Deadpool because Fox stuff. They brought back old Fox Marvel characters. He saved that universe's line, so maybe these things will thrive and exist, be part of the MCU, but stay in their own parallel timeline unless they need to cross over for some things. And this way it doesn't muddy the water where everybody's in the same universe doing everything all at once.
I was this close to cleaning out the StreamYard account from all these overlay.
There it is, 164.
And then here we go. Binary comes up. So
Right.
I'm glad to have that. Yeah, look, I think it's tough when you start trying to factor it all in. Our buddy Dominicus Saxon, appreciate you being in the chat. I don't watch these movies for the logistical accuracy. Yes, but there are times where you're like, okay, but they could explain it if they wanted to. It's.
I don't think Deadpool's the one that you go to for the hard explanations.
No, that's Star Trek. That's why we go to Star Trek.
Yeah.
No, he's the one that's the temporary tape on all the holes, and it's like, hey, just have Deadpool jump, talk, do something around here, and then we move on from that, and then that fixes a lot of nitty gritty, if you will.
Butts Unplugged, who's one of two demons in our chat, if Hackride's still there. Fox killed Wolverine. Fox killed Wolverine. Disney got him back. They're going to play Wolverine till he's 90. I thought that was a very funny,
Till you're 90.
Dominicus also thought we were done with Logan, but they brought him back. And I think that there is the buddy cop element to this, which I think is a lot of fun.
I found out something after the movie was done. So in the last 3 movies, he's reading a book, and it's called The Canadian Booty or something, right?
Yeah, it's from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Right. So they explain. No, they're talking about the book, and he explains. Yeah, it's the book John Candy's reading while they're sitting there at the bus station or the airport or something, and he felt, because he's a big John Candy fan and also Canada, so that, putting that in there for representation. But he said he based a lot of the interactions off that movie with Steve Martin and John Candy's relationship. He said, we wanted to do Planes, Trains, and Automobiles where it just would, this scene would escalate, then this scene would escalate, then this scene would escalate, and then at the end, apparently Wolverine is the John Candy version in this movie. He invites him over to his house because he has nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
And all his family's gone.
Right.
Well, they definitely reenacted the bed scene many times.
Yes.
Hey, how about those bears?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's I didn't know anything about that. That's very interesting. I think that's very fun. I love this idea that it is because it's not 48 hours. It's not Lethal Weapon, but yeah, I think Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was just a smidge more action and a tiny bit more blood is a way to look at it. Well, Katie, as we sort of bring in everything we're saying about the TVA and the actual team up aspect of it, give me your thoughts on watching Wade going and trying to find a Logan that will suffice, because the best Logan was no longer available.
That was such a fun montage. You got pieces of it in the trailer, which did feel a little bit like, oh man, why'd you have to show that? But I absolutely loved the fact that they had comic accurate Wolverine. He called him Harry Lou Retner. That was
Harry Lou Retton. Yeah,
Retton. Yeah. Sorry,
some time ago, Chris Claremont explained to me in an interview that he wanted Bob Hoskins, who people know from Roger Rabbit. He thought that's who should have been Wolverine, and I'm like, oh, it wouldn't have been good, but I get what you're saying, sir.
I kind of wish
another British actor or an Australian actor.
You know what? That guy would have been great to play Puck from Alpha Flight.
Hey, and we still haven't gotten our Alpha Flight movie, although unfortunately Bob Hoskins is no longer with us. So,
yeah, that is unfortunate.
So
don't overanalyze these movies. They'll CGI him in. Come on.
There you go.
So they're going to spend the money to CGI Bob Hoskins as Puck.
Yes.
Don't worry about it. Their AI will
he'll do the same merry-go-round broke down dance like he did in Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, that scene right there that you're showing on screen right now.
And it is my background. And I'm sorry I'm covering you up, Nate. I have to. I'm sorry. There's so many moving pieces when you do a show like this.
Do you want to just take the Deadpool talk thing down? Or?
No, well, that's what I'm. Hey, do you think that's what I should do, Katie?
Sorry. Anyway,
it's a different tab. You want me to show you how StreamYard works?
I just want to see Nate sigh anytime I say something. That's all. So. No, I loved how many different variations that we got from this. I mean, we got Patch, we got comic accurate Wolverine. I 1000% loved the Henry Cavill cameo.
Tremendous.
That was phenomenal, really well done. I love what he said to him, pacing with those shit fucks down the street.
Yeah, come work for us instead of that. We'll treat you better than those shit fucks down the street.
Exactly.
That was tremendous.
And like,
tremendous.
honestly, when you showed him from behind, I was like, I know that's not Hugh Jackman. Like he's jacked, but he's not that jacked.
I thought it was Daniel Radcliffe.
I was actually surprised we didn't get, he doesn't work that much anymore. Maybe that's why. But Doug Ray Scott was supposed to play Logan in X-Men, and then it was conflict scheduling, or it was like a visa issue. So Hugh Jackman just, dumb luck, ends up getting it. But I think that getting Henry Cavill as Wolver, I forget what they're calling him online. There's a nickname for Cavalrine.
Superine, or
but I thought that was fun, and the crucified Logan from the cover of Uncanny X-Men 251 was the thing that is the first time that I lost my shit during this movie. But I loved seeing Patch, his Wolverine solo series, early issues, Madripoor with the white jacket, and the Age of Apocalypse Wolverine, where he's just beating Deadpool with the stump.
The one
did that do anything for you, Nate? Because that was I got a lot of enjoyment out of that.
That's probably my favorite part of the movie. That montage of just like, as someone who has like Wolverine, probably not so much anymore now that I'm an adult and I've read a lot more, but growing up, Wolverine was always my favorite character and always my favorite books, and like being able to see all the different eras of him, like as soon as I went to the casino, I was like, Patch! Like it was so cool. It's seeing the brown suit too, also.
As the John Byrne Wolverine, which he's my favorite artist.
The
fact that they nodded the cap to him and said his name was tremendous for me.
Yeah, it was awesome. That part, I think, I need to see it again. I did really enjoy the second like the second fight, the car fight with Deadpool and Wolverine. That was really good too. But I think this, just for seeing all of the different, like the Cavill cameo, the comic accurate Wolverine, the like different suits, the alternate versions, like
Weapon
to me,
X.
like that, and then having the Uncanny X-Men cover, like seeing that in live action, like I was like, holy shit, yeah, that was awesome.
The week leading up to the movie, they did so much press, and at one point they were filling in for Jimmy Kimmel, who's off.
Yeah, it was great.
Vacationing. And I think it was on this appearance where he alluded that a certain comic book cover appears in the movie, that he was alluding that they're going to do something more with it down the line, and everyone's thinking it's that Uncanny X cover.
Yeah, well, I would certainly be a fan of that. You know, that's
I hope it's the John Byrne one.
That's a Genosha storyline that if they want to get there, let's definitely get there. Erik, is sort of, as we're sort of, you know, getting to the buddy cop point of it, which you know, there's some false starts before he finds the worst Logan, as he's often called throughout the early part of the movie. Were any of the things that we haven't touched on yet, did any of that jump out for you personally?
No, I think I already said the DC lines were great.
Yeah.
The Uncanny X-Men thing, because I knew of that cover. I've never read the story, but I always knew about that cover and the hype around that storyline for Uncanny X-Men. It is making me go back to go like download it somewhere and explore it, especially since he's alluding that they're going to do something, and I think it, like a lot of people think, it's going to be that particular story.
Yeah.
I loved everything about this so far, because there was like there was cameos that you would never even fathom in this movie, and the Henry Cavill coming in, you're like, well, after they just, you know, cornholed him over at the other place to get him back to do something, and then they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna cut everything, gone, and you're dismissed. We no longer need you. He should come over here. I know he's not going to be Sentry, but it would have been amazing if he came over and was Sentry or some other larger-than-life Superman-esque kind of character for the X-Men to bring him over.
Someone holding a Cylon warrior in their basement?
I've got the gardeners outside, so I keep hitting the mute button to cut it out. So I'm going to do that again until you need me.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll need Brody in about 20 minutes. No, I kid. I kid. We referenced the car fight scene, so I wanted to share a photo from Comic-Con that Katie, I knew you hadn't seen it, so I didn't want to talk about like, oh my God, it's the wrecked car. So if you waited in the line to get the picture, you got the pin for that day. So I waited in 2 lines and somehow got 3 pins. But
so you're gonna send one over to me, right?
No, because they're 3 different pins. I need the set. If it was anything other than that, but you know, there are multiple Deadpools throughout the film.
I'll trade you
this. Oh, I don't see what you. Oh, you have a Slimer.
This is the one they gave us at the movie theater for Ghostbusters.
Oh well, if it's
I have a 1982 I Saw E.T. pin.
When I saw the movie theater. All right, I'll take that. And
all right.
You know, obviously finding Logan, we'll talk a little bit more about that before we delve into the void. But
by the way, Dogpool just did an appearance at the South Street Seaport here in New York.
Oh, no way.
And you didn't go?
Who said it didn't go? I got a little tongue action. Come on.
Did they give you a pin?
No, I didn't.
Send it to Iraq if they gave you a pin.
I want a Dogpool pin.
Yeah, I would.
No, he licked my mouth. I'll spit in yours. It'll be even.
All right.
I'm so glad I brought up Dogpool for that.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. So, let's talk about the Logan we get, who has a pretty great arc. And, you know, Deadpool is the omniscient fourth wall breaker. It's like, oh, you want to tell the story? You want to save it for an Act 3 reveal. And, you know, the why he wears the costume, the backstory, everything about that is I think it's some great character work. He gets to bring some heart to this Logan. As was pointed out when I was on the main Geekscape feed talking about this movie, I can't remember if it was Jonathan or Ian, the idea that it's like, and then the humans came for them. I'm like, okay, they're the X-Men. So did the humans come with like Nimrod Sentinels, or did they just show up with torches? And I'm pretty sure Cyclops could have taken them alone, but that didn't. I guess that didn't take me out of that stuff too much. But getting to know this Logan, this is the Logan we always wanted, the one who swears as much as he does, and he can't stand Deadpool. I love all that. The only thing missing from this movie that I like from the comics is whenever Deadpool's around Spider-Man and he flirts with him just to make Spider-Man very uncomfortable. But there's time enough at last for all of it. Okay, yeah, exactly. He was doing that.
Yeah, they didn't have the rights to even mention Spider-Man's name in the movie, so.
Yeah, they had to cover up a photo of him with Tony Stark
in Happy Hogan's office. It's that photo where they were giving the scholarship grant to Tom Holland, and they have he has like a jacket or a shirt or something that's blocking the Tom Holland, or else they'd have to include Sony in all of this.
Yep.
Yeah. So
was there any X-Men First Class references? Did I miss something?
I mean, they talk about James McAvoy. They name check him, I think. Don't they? So
but nobody from those. Nobody from those movies was in the
movie. And that's one of the things that I expected. We'll talk about the cameos we did get, as amazing as they were, in a moment. But I thought that we would see some more of those actors. I know that Pyro was in there. Some of the evil mutants, I guess most of them we did get to see, but we didn't get any of the X-Men actors from either version, the First Class or the original recipe. Look, I think all that would have done is make the movie even longer. And in this day and age, a 2-hour and 7-minute movie is, it's like a short, it's a treat to have a movie under 2.5 hours. So was anybody disappointed that we didn't get any interactions with any of those X-Men? I mean, we have Colossus, but I consider him sort of like this is the Deadpool Colossus. But was anybody looking for anything? I'll ask you first, Nate.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely. This is where I really want to see the movie again. Is I definitely had. I was really trying to curb my expectations, but I really was expecting more of something that was going to tie in the X-Men or something into the MCU towards the future. I do think, especially with the cameos, I was expecting at least when we finally got like Wolverine's backstory, like Bad Wolverine's backstory, that we would get at least like a flashback of like the X-Men crew, even just like for a minute in their suits. Like that would have been incredible. I'm sure somebody tried to do that and it probably would have been a logistical nightmare, but like I just really wanted to see more of, like it was cool to get Wesley Snipes, like did not expect Blade. Cool to get Elektra, like that's funny and also so random and cool also. But like all of these other, all those X-Men, not one of them could get a variant of I don't know, that part kind of threw me off. And then also, well, wait, no, because the Hulk stuff is Sony, so that makes sense why we didn't see any of that stuff. But
Universal.
Universal.
Hulk is Universal, but if the movie doesn't have Hulk in the title,
correct,
Marvel Studios is allowed to use him, and so the way that he's used, which is also, that might be something that they're referencing, that sort of that showdown. Obviously the Wolverine's first appearance is in Incredible Hulk 181, but there's also the very famous Todd McFarlane reflection of the Hulk in Wolverine's claws, which I believe is Hulk 340, but don't hold me to that. And that could also be something that we're going to get. If you want to give me any Hulk and Wolverine story, I'll sign up for it, but they just can't put Hulk's name in the title.
That shot was awesome too. So if they do that of Wolverine fighting Hulk, that would be awesome. But
we know we're going to get some Hulk with Red Hulk coming around now.
True.
Good point. True.
American
Thunderbolt
Cupcake,
Lost.
The Age of Apocalypse Wolverine was amazing. Nate and I agree with you that all of this stuff. We've talked about Wesley Snipes. We've talked about Jennifer Garner. We do need to talk about Channing Tatum as Gambit. Gambit's accent was hilarious. It is good that they played it the way they did, where they didn't have him play like a straight man Gambit, like playing him as like a real, like this is a real guy, instead of the discarded idea that he was, the idea where he's like, maybe I was born in the void. I was like, all right, that's a nice touch. I know Channing Tatum wanted to do a Gambit movie for a long time. I don't think I was ever convinced that he was the right fit, but he was perfect for this movie. Taylor Kitsch didn't win anybody over in X-Men Origins Wolverine, but it at least kind of looked a little bit. Channing Tatum's just the complete wrong body type, so I thought it was great, sort of getting references to some of the other characters. So Brody, you were the one who brought it up, so let's talk about Chris Evans. And Deadpool is like, he's gonna say it,
Yeah.
and then the super nerdy on us of us were all like, he's gonna say flame on, but still great joke, great bit, all around. Talk about getting Chris Evans as Human Torch in this film.
Loved it. I assumed Chris Evans would be in my dream was to have Captain America and Human Torch in the same scene. I thought that would have been pretty cool.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen. But I thought it was great. The only again, can't overanalyze. I get it. But when Deadpool went to 616 in the movie, Steve Rogers had never said Avengers Assemble at that point. So I don't know how he knew that he always says Avengers again. But as Eric pointed out, he may have said that in Deadpool's universe, the Captain America who was there. I don't know.
All right. Well, let me just put a pin in what you were going to say, because this is the same point that I made. He is an omniscient narrator who understands that Ben Affleck played Daredevil in a movie, and
Yes.
he's divorced from Jennifer Garner. So this Deadpool has seen all the movies we've seen.
Fair enough.
And that movie came out in 2019. I want to make the point that Deadpool
100%.
knows everything we know.
Okay. So even though I knew it was a Fox Universe show, and even though I knew Human Torch was definitely going to be in the movie, the red and white taping on his arm with the blue costume fooled me into thinking that was a Captain America variant. Even though I knew that Human Torch would be in the movie, I should have thought it was Human Torch. And when he said he's going to say it, it wasn't until he said it that I went, of course he said flame on.
How did you know he was going to be in the movie? Was it spoiled?
It was, what the rumors, like who's going to be in it. It's there were leaks like they'll probably have Daredevil and Jennifer Garner. They'll probably have the Fox Universe people. And then because Feige kept saying, oh, Chris Evans is definitely going to be back in the Marvel Universe someday. And Robert Downey Jr. will definitely be back in the, so I'm like, oh, this would be a way to get Chris Evans back in the Marvel Universe. Have him as Human Torch. That would make a lot of sense. So it seemed like an obvious to me that he would be one of the people. Again, Blade, no clue, but Human Torch and Chris Evans, that was my fantasy, was to have him and Captain America. So I kind of figured he'd be in the movie as Human Torch, and I still wasn't aware, I wasn't ready for it until it happened. Even though I went in the movie going, I'm going to see Chris Evans as Human Torch.
Yeah, and one of the great things is having those wide eyes for Deadpool, because as soon as he goes Avengers and then he goes flame on and flies up, you just see Deadpool's eyes go like that, and then he just looks up like, oh my god, that you don't add to the joke, but his accented the joke perfectly.
Yeah.
And I guess Deadpool was fooled also, because as you said, he knows Chris Evans is Human Torch.
Yeah.
Right? Human Torch is from his universe. So he shouldn't have been that surprised that it could have been Human Torch.
Well,
but
it
he was
funny
fooled
when
also.
they run into Cassandra, and and then he just goes, "No, we don't. We thought we knew him, but we have no idea who he is."
Who he is.
They just hung him out to dry on all.
Yeah, which we'll talk about in a moment. I want to talk about Cassandra Nova, but before
You
we
shouldn't
move
have said
on-
all those things about her.
Yeah,
By
I
the
know.
way, you can't-
Ivan Soto says we all agree Deadpool made Johnny Cusack Cassandra Nova. Somebody earlier was asking about the end credit scene. That was delightful to have.
And you
a
can't
lot of
lie
fun
to
having
a psychic. How do you lie to a psychic?
Yeah, right, exactly. So to have all of that there in the end was great. So the Jennifer Garner was spoiled a long time ago because there was some set stuff. The there were photos of the 20th Century Fox logo, which that didn't really ruin that much, but it kind of helped spin the narrative online for what the movie was going to be. And there were no pictures, but there was Jennifer Garner's on set, and I'm like, oh, that's going to be crazy. How about that? But yeah, I think a lot of us thought we might get Daredevil and some other things. But if nobody has anything else on the cameos, I do want to bring it over to Cassandra Nova, especially because 4 of the 5 of us on screen did do the Geekscape Book Club focused on E is for Extinction, where that character was introduced. And Nate, you seemed to know the most about Cassandra out of any of us at that time. And the only difference is now I've seen her in a movie for a little bit. But what did you think about having her be essentially the big bad? You can argue that Paradox, the TVA, you know, the loss of the anchor being, but who they're going up against is Cassandra Nova. What do you think about that choice, Nate?
This Cassandra Nova reminds me a lot of the Gore the God Butcher that we got. Or even
Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would also compare it to Taskmaster in the Black Widow movie. I think it's a cool character, serves the story very well. I think it is an awful depiction of the character that is Cassandra Nova. It doesn't make any sense for the character motivations. Her power level also is insane, which then makes kind of the rest of the movie seem kind of like, well, why doesn't she just snap her fingers and rip the skin off of everybody? Why she can seemingly appear and disappear materially, and then just also now she has shadow cat powers where she can go inside of people, and she's got she has like, she's psychic, but only if she touches you. Like, it just felt very unclear and very inconsistent. I think the performance was great. It was haunting, especially specifically when she's dragging Paradox's limp body. Like, that was actually like kind of like nightmare fuel a little bit. But as a depiction of a pre-established character, of someone who has substantial relevance to the X-Men continuity, I was pretty disappointed.
Yeah, but I see what you're saying. The portrayal of this version, that actress is Emma Louise Corrin, who plays Princess Diana on The Crown. I had never seen her before, but I thought she was great, and mostly because of how much she looked like bald James McAvoy. You know, she just really seemed to resemble him. Katie, what did you think of Cassandra Nova in this film?
I freaking loved her. I agree. I think we could use more of her because she is a very dark, horrible villain. Her putting her fingers into everybody's faces, I was like, oh, that is straight from the comic. That, like, exactly how we read it. And I was just as creeped and icked out by that visual. And then her long fingers on top of it. I will say that I hope we see her again in something else. I hope we actually get a little bit more. I agree with Nate that, like, I wish that we had a little bit more crossover with the X-Men coming into the Marvel universe, but I think they were at least getting Wolverine in there so that we can usher in a new era. But I don't know. It didn't quite make the advance that I thought it was going to, but she was terrifying, awful, and amazing, and I thought she did a phenomenal performance.
Erik, I want to know what you thought of her, because I feel like it's a character you're not familiar with. I was not particularly familiar with her even like 3 months ago. So
I knew of the actress. I saw her on The Crown. She also had a Hulu series. It was something like Murder at the End of the World, I think it was called. Okay. I watched that too. She was really good in it. I was excited to see her in this. Knew very little of the character, but from what I read about the character and what she explained of her origin was a little weird, because I thought she was Charles's twin in the womb, and then this way she
got pruned.
Yeah,
early
she
on in life.
basically died in the womb, sort of. It's confusing.
But
I
I
don't
thought
even
she
know
said
if I
something like
understand.
she knew of Charles coming to be, so she went into the womb or something like
Yeah.
she wasn't
Yes.
originally part of it. That confused me. I'm like, oh, that's not what I read. But
Yeah.
all right, whatever. I'll figure it out
But
later.
Nate, do you think Eric's at least getting essentially the comic book explanation?
Yeah, I mean that is in the books. She's not like she is like saying she's Xavier's twin is like the really short simple answer, but she's not a mutant or human even. She's like a primordial being of energy that sensed Xavier's power and then put herself into the womb with Xavier to kind of like copy him and then tried to kill him but then failed and got ejected from the womb and then lived as like plasmic goo for a long time until it decided to take a body form, and then it started this plan of like revenge against Xavier. Often she takes other people's form, she goes into other people's bodies and like controls them. Like there's a lot of weird stuff in there, so that part of the explanation is definitely correct, but it feels like a weird exposition to just kind of dump and then be like, okay, now I'm bald and scary. Like
Well, I like her bald and scary, and I like to see if they would continue with her down the line because she's a great actress, and I don't know much about that character, but I'd like to see where it goes with it. The fact that, I guess, like you were saying, in a way she's related to Charles, that she's his twin or fraternal twin or whatever.
Right.
I would like to see them maybe come face to face, whether it's Stuart McElvoy or whoever else that they're gonna bring in as Charles. I would like to see that happen. I liked her character. I thought it was creepy, the hand thing right around the eyes and the nose, pulling the brain and the skull, and that was something I've never seen before. And again, I didn't read her comics, so I had no idea. So it was new to me. I really enjoyed it. It was something brand new that I had no idea could happen and exist. We've all seen the the skin pulling and filleting, as they call it, that kind of stuff. So creepy and terrifying, but nothing new. The hand in the face and some of the other shit that she was doing, I really enjoyed. So yeah, I enjoyed the character a lot.
Before we start to wind down on the movie, Brody, I want to get your thoughts on Cassandra Nova. Did you feel like you wanted a big bad from your Claremont Byrne era? Did you want it to be Mastermind? I'm not even sure what else it would have been. Arcade somehow could have run the
yeah.
I loved Arcade, but
Sauron, I thought
I don't know about Sauron.
Yeah, I thought the actress was great. I was surprised she let them go. She's really evil.
Yeah.
That she showed a little bit of sympathy. And then I thought her motivation for wanting to destroy every universe seemed out of nowhere. Like it didn't make any sense to me that all of a sudden, like, I'm going to destroy all the universes with that Ripper thing. Because, well, first of all, if she enjoys being in the void and she likes people being brought to the void so she can have slaves or kill them, and she has to feed Goliath, if she wipes out all the multiverse and everything except the void, then she has nowhere to go, no new people come in for her to rule over, and nothing to feed Goliath. So it just didn't, again, suspend disbelief, I get it. But it didn't make sense as I'm watching the movie that she'd suddenly want to destroy the multiverse, other than the fact it's been a failed movement by Marvel Studios. It didn't make any sense to me if she enjoys the killing and the power and everything else, that eventually she'd be alone with Goliath because everyone else would be eaten. But other than that, I thought she was great. And then, she's trying to use the Ripper machine. Like that whole thing at the end didn't make sense to me. But I loved her.
Yeah,
like Thanos. Thanos never would have said, "If you take the helmet off, I'll let you guys go."
Yeah,
and meant it.
He would. Yeah, he would have.
Right.
Yeah.
And the fact that she didn't flay everybody was also like, why is she letting them all fight? Like she just killed them.
Does she see the future? Does she see how things play out?
Didn't seem to be
kind of like Doctor Strange, because she had his ring.
She could just open the
but she didn't get any kind of power from him, right? Where he can see the future and stuff like that.
That may have been the only power she didn't have.
Yeah, okay. She wanted to destroy the multiverse in the same way Ike Perlmutter wanted to destroy the multiverse before he divested his share of Disney, but that's neither here nor there. Before we finish talking about the movie, I want to give each of you a chance. Something about the movie that you want to make sure we talk about before we finish. I'll ask you first, day after the birthday girl, Katie. Is there something that you've been hoping we get to and we just haven't yet?
I was very shocked by the Johnny Storm stuff. I didn't hear about that. That wasn't spoiled for me. I also hadn't seen the movie, so that was so incredible. That end credit scene was quite possibly the funniest take I've ever seen.
What was his last line? Got you, motherfucker, or something like that?
Something like
that. Yeah, something like that. And just seeing Chris Evans finally get a chance to just cuss up a storm was beautiful, and in a Boston accent too. Yeah. On top of it,
bring out his Boston roots or what have you.
Yeah.
What about you, Eric? Is there something that you want to make sure that we get to?
Again, like I told Brody, like it for what it is. I like the fact that they didn't bring him into official Marvel properties, because they may have wanted to do that at first, but considering how terrible Phase 5 has gone, everything since Endgame, this was a way of doing something new and not interfering with where they're going forward. I know a lot of people thought stuff was getting too muddy, and always the multiverse is the answer to fix something or to kill something or whatever. That's like, let's do something that's touching what we're doing, but still remains parallel. We saw the end credits. We saw stuff within the movie. It's a nice little love letter to the Fox universe, to the fans of the Fox properties. Let's give these characters their due diligence and some honorable stuff. We don't know at the end. We know he saved Wolverine and X-27, 37, whatever.
X-23.
23, her name. But we don't know if Blade and Elektra and all of them have been saved. We assume they have, because he said, I have some friends I'd like you to do something with. So they might be alive in their own areas. So maybe we see them again down the line. But to have this be touching what MCU is doing and then still remain adjacent to it was a nice way. The end credit doesn't tease towards something else. It wraps up this particular movie and this particular universe with something very funny. It's close-ended, even though we were going, opening up in middle parts of the movie. I think the way they designed this was great. People wanted to see him show up somewhere in other major properties. We will. We know he's going to be in the next two Avenger movies that are coming out. We know Fantastic Four is going to be there. We know all of this stuff is going to come to some kind of head or crossovers at some point. So we know there's more to coming. Right now wasn't the time to do it, but the way they handled this, I think, was perfect.
Character we'll talk more about in our next episodes and our future episodes, mostly just because we ran out of time today, is X-23. I'm glad you mentioned her, Eric. Ivan Soto as a Hispanic, I absolutely love Laura X-23 speaking Spanish, and I don't even know her character. Logan is an excellent movie, but it is also rated R, Ivan. But if you could sit through this, you're going to be fine with Logan. There's nothing you got to worry about with Logan. It's an excellent film, one of the best from this film.
And on Disney Plus front page.
You know what? You're right. It is right there. Brody, what's something you want to make sure that you get a chance to talk about?
Well, I thought the movie was going to be something different. I wasn't sure if he was going to kill the Fox universe, if they were going to have, I thought, like a lot of people did, Taylor Swift was going to be Dazzler. To me, that was like the perfect casting. Thought she'd be in the movie. Thought she might be Lady Deadpool. I was disappointed that Lady Deadpool didn't take her mask off after she got stabbed. I know it was Blake Lively, but do I really know it was Blake Lively? So I would have liked to have seen Blake Lively. I think the pool core, the Deadpool core, was terrific. Overall, I think the movie was exactly what it needed to be. I loved the montage of the Fox universe in the mid credits. I thought that was terrific. I would have liked, as Nate said, to have seen maybe one flashback of maybe Scott Summers closing the door on Wolverine. Like, if you're not going to help us, get out. Just something that showed, Halle Berry was seen with a Storm haircut, couple of months ago. So people were like, oh, she got the haircut because she's in the movie. Patrick Stewart, when asked if he was in the movie, said, he alluded to I might be, So I was disappointed he wasn't in the movie.
Well, they're not in this. They're not in this movie. That doesn't mean they're not in another movie.
Oh, no. But they asked him specifically about this movie, and Patrick sort of alluded to it.
Dave, we can talk about this off air, but I just real quick, I think the X-Men entity is bigger than the whole Fox world for 100%. Their movies right now. So I think that's why they're we're going to do something special with them down the line. Let's not use some of this stuff here.
God willing, he lives long enough.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, I think you touched on everything. I really enjoyed the movie, and the end credit scene was one of the best.
Dominica Saxon, who's Blake Lively? It is Ryan Reynolds' wife,
star of Gossip Girl.
Star of Gossip Girl. So that's why that joke's in there. This is his second wife. He previously was married to Black Widow. Nate, I want to give you the last word here, and I don't mean Florence Pugh. I want to give you the last word. What's the thing you want to talk about? Good, bad, somewhere in between when talking about this movie?
Well, first of all, I need to see it again. I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to seeing it again. It's packed full of stuff. I think they made the most of the runtime that they had, which is great. There's a lot of nitpicky things that I think, like, obviously we could pick into circles, but in terms of enjoyment, I think it hits that right on the head. I would like to again shout out the car scene, just the whole sequence of them, from them talking into a very well choreographed fight with lots of really cool creative camera choices and fight choreography choices.
And bravo for the paid sponsorship to be in the movie, to allow them to shit on their product the entire time.
That was the most insane part to me.
It did convince us how durable that vehicle is, though.
Exactly. It took a beating. It survived to
and because of this movie, next year it'll be on the most stolen car list now.
Yeah, but I agree with you on that, Nate. That sequence, not just the fight part, but the actual character part. Anything else for you, Nate?
Yeah, just more superheroes in superhero costumes. If we're gonna do the superhero stuff, if we're gonna buy in and we're gonna invest all this stuff, like obviously we've seen that play out well with MCU and not so well with some of the movies, but not because of the costumes, but specifically just seeing Wolverine in this, just like I could not help but feel in my mind. Yes, it was a very different time, but trying to imagine those original X-Men movies with them in colorful suits, with Cyclops in the blue suit with the visor, like I wish, I long for a world of where that was the case, and I'm very much looking forward to, like, I like that how that this ended, like Erik said, perfectly, where it closed in on itself. It presented a complete story, but it also opened up the avenue for more things with these characters to happen in the future. So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
And Katie mentioned in the chat that they decided to do the black leather because of the Matrix, which it is a very similar era.
And in X-Men 97, they made reference when they were talking about, Cable said something about the costumes. It's like, well, what did you expect? Black leather?
Right.
So they did the reverse of it.
Which is, the what do you expect? Blue and yellow spandex. I want to give everybody a chance to promote where they can be found, and the conversation can continue, and you can find their other work. Katie Hampton, where do people find you?
You can always find me at @LSassyPants, ELSASSYPNTS, sometimes with a Z if you're on TikTok. You can also catch me if you're in Los Angeles next Wednesday at the Pack Theater with Faux Pas. We take your faux pas and we turn them into shows. That's where you can find me.
It's Erik Nagel celebrating 10 years. Where can people find those years and all the years going forward?
We are currently on iHeart Radio, iHeart Podcast, so you can find the show there. Also, Apple, Spotify, all of those places for the on-demand content. If you want to see the show live or see the produced video versions of the program, it's Erik Nagel, all one word, on YouTube.
And, of course, Peter Parker is our Queens boy. Steve Rogers was the Brooklyn boy, but our real Brooklyn boy now is David Brody. Where can people find the Brooklyn boys and anything else you have going on?
Well, you can also find them on the iHeartRadio app and all other apps. But if you listen on the iHeartRadio app, you can push the microphone, leave us a talkback, and then we do a second show from the Brooklyn Boys called Slice Time, where we play all the talkbacks back and comment on them. You can find me on social media at David Brody with a Y. And that's it for now. I'll be listening to the It's Erik Nagel Show.
I feel left out not being on iHeartRadio. Nate Miller, where can people find you?
I can be found at Doglike Nate with 2 G's on Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff.
And of course, at Christian DMZ is where you can find me on social media. Please like, subscribe to my personal channel, Blackcast, BLADTCAST, but also subscribe right here on Geekscape, where you'll get all of the tremendous content. As I mentioned, we did an emergency episode on Monday talking about everything from San Diego Comic-Con, and there was already a special on the main feed with Jonathan London, Ian Kerner, and I. So you can find all that stuff if you like and subscribe on Geekscape. And you'll also find our next episode, which will be Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. We're going to tag back in our regular Eric Connor, with 2 first-time guests to the Geekscape channel. Adam Hughesy, the H-Man Hughes from Ireland.
Oh, no.
And from Once Over with Kaylee, my friend Kaylee, also known as Lucy Tightbox. Hughesy is a huge Marvel fan, and he loved this movie. And we'll see if it's a happy hour when we're recording.
This is going to be your first stream that you're going to need the dump button.
I've had him on Who Are These Broadcasters, and I don't need the dump button over there, and you're absolutely right. So everyone can find that on Thursday. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, everybody, for in the chat. If we didn't get to your thoughts and comments, we're going to keep talking about this movie for a couple weeks. Join us on Thursday. Join us next week. Thank you again to everyone. And as the great Stan Lee would say, Excelsior!